Howdy, y'all. Today we have an easy to make delicacy, Cowboy Egg Clouds with potato hash. So let's get to it. It is 0400 hours, and we are starting off with our chopped up red potatoes, our chopped up sweet onion, some chopped up green onion, chopped up and sliced up green bell pepper, along with 4 eggs. The longest part of our process here will be cooking our red potatoes in our cast iron skillet, so we'll be adding all that in there. We'll also be separating our egg yolks from our egg whites. That's what I'm doing here. There are multiple ways to do it. You can just use the eggshell to separate them, but it's hard to hold the camera while doing that. So I'm separating the egg yolk, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the egg yolk into a separate little saucer that'll be easy to pour out of later. It does take a little while to get the hang of this so that the egg yolk doesn't break or it doesn't slip through the little slats themselves. So it looks pretty darn good right there. We're going to go put that in a little saucer. These will be used later, so do not get rid of them. We're going to add ourselves a good hefty pinch of salt to our egg whites. We have all 4 egg whites in this container. We're going to go ahead and whisk them. So we're partially done here. Let's do some more. But before that we get to that, let's get back to our red potatoes. We're going to add some onions in. There will be 2 separate dishes here. So we 2 folks eating, 2 varying tastes on what is preferred. So that's why there will be 2 different red potato hashes and 2 different Cowboy Egg Clouds. So we're going to get it all mixed in there. Some folks like their onions just to be sweet and not have some of the bitterness. So that's why I put in some of the onions now. Whereas later we'll be putting them in a little bit later in the cooking process. Also be sure to have plenty of either butter or country crock on hand. Don't prefer to use margarine, personal preference, but you can use margarine if you like. Now we have our egg whites all whipped up. It's a very nice consistency. These are slightly overdone, but it'll work just fine for what we're doing. Now we're adding some of our chopped up green bell pepper to our hash here. Still putting it in somewhat early so that the taste isn't super strong. Depending on where you're at, depending on the soil that the green bell peppers are grown in, sometimes they're stronger than others. Just depends on which ones you're either growing or buying from your local store. Also going to add in some of the green onions at this point. Going back to our whipped egg whites, we're going to use a somewhat large spoon and we're going to divvy out 4 blobs onto a cookie sheet that has a parchment paper on top. So this way it does not stick to our cookie sheet. We don't have to spray it with nothing. It just makes it easier, and we're going to make a well into each egg cloud. We're going to have this so that it just has room for the egg yolk later. I make them a little extra deep just to be on the safe side. You also want to get your oven preheated to 350. It'll make this process go faster once we put them in the oven. So we're going to do this 4 times, and again, make sure that it is a nice, solid well. They're not all the way down to the bottom of the cookie sheet. We don't want them all the way down, but we don't want them to be super high up. So it does have some decent depth to it, at least halfway down, if not 2/3. Going back to our red potato hash, our red potatoes are cooking a little faster. I do have this on a lower to medium heat, just so it's a nice long cooking cycle and get the seasonings in there from the cast iron. Not really adding too much of a specific seasoning other than just black pepper and some salt. Not too much either. I want to have the taste of the actual ingredients compared to a bunch of seasonings for today's meal. So we're adding in our bacon bits. Sometimes I scoot everything to one side and have the bacon bits on the other side just to get them cooking a little bit faster, get some of the bacon grease out, and then mix it all up. It gives it more flavor. It just depends on the folks you are cooking for or your own personal taste. So now we're putting egg clouds into the oven at 350. Put them in there for about 6 minutes until they start to slightly brown. If they start to brown sooner for you, you want to get them out a little bit sooner than that 6 minutes. Getting our second red potato hash going. Again, putting in some of the onions early. Be probably putting in more later. Just depends on who you're cooking for. We have our clouds coming out, but they're not done yet. We will be putting them back in the oven, so don't turn that oven off. We're going to put our egg yolk into our cloud, get a little sunshine in there, and be careful not to bust the yolks. And we'll do that for each one. Sometimes they do stick a little bit in the little saucers. I didn't spray them with anything, so if it stuck a little bit, it was fine by me. So that's good. We're going to put them back in the oven for another 3 or 4 minutes at the same temperature. And we're going to wait for the egg whites to get a little bit more brown. Back to our hash, we're going to add some more green onion for our second plate. And we're just going to keep stirring up, and we're going to put some more onions in there. These aren't going to be super raw by the end because I do have them cooking over a decent amount of time, even though it's not super warm. It's going to be a nice, even cook. Some more country crock. I do prefer using either country crock or butter. Just gives it better flavor in my opinion. Also helps spread some of the flavor around once that butter or country crock starts melting, gets to the bottom, starts sizzling, then spreads some of the onion taste, green bell pepper taste onto the potatoes. Then once we add our bacon bits, it will also do the same with that, mixing with the bacon grease. It just helps spread flavor around. And if there's any harsher flavors, just say an onion didn't get cooked all the way, it's going to spread some of that out. If anything starts sticking too much in the cast iron, I will add a little bit of oil, but I normally don't have to do that too much since I pre-season and season after cooking. So we got some nice steam going there. We got our onions still working on cooking. They haven't cooked too much. We're going to get that bacon starting to sizzle a little bit with that bacon grease. Looks pretty darn good. Now we're going to pull out our egg clouds. As you can see, the bottom left yolk had a little accident and was oozing out a little bit, but that's fine. It still looks good. Our egg whites have browned and they look very nice. Normally, we don't have that piece going across from the top 2 egg clouds, but I was having to pause for the filming, so they started to fall apart on me. They're still going to taste great in the end. We're adding some more of our green onion pieces, and they can be quite strong, so use those in moderation unless you really like a nice green onion taste. So we have some toast next to our egg clouds, and we're going to fancy it up a little bit on one of our plates with some green onion slices. I just think it looks fancier. It brings more flavor out in my opinion. So for mine, I'm going to have a little bit extra green onion. We're going to go back to our red potato hash here. It's cooking very nicely. Everything looking evenly cooked. Potatoes evenly cooked. I don't see any pieces that are undercooked. Same with our onion. Nothing looks too white in there. That means it's cooking out. Got my coffee. Got to have my Yellowstone mug that my best friend gave me. Got to have my coffee while I'm cooking. So it's still a nice little steam coming off. It all looks pretty darn good right now. Nothing's burning. Everything's coming off the sides nice and easy like. That's how it's supposed to be in our cast iron skillet. Again, check and make sure everything looks evenly cooked, and it's all looking great. So we're going to go take that out, and we're going to put in our green bell pepper slices. As y'all can see, there is still a little bit of bacon and some other little particles in my cast iron skillet. That's perfectly fine. These are going to just get some extra flavoring from that. I did add some extra canola oil before putting these in. I use all kinds of different oils depending on what I'm cooking. You can have canola oil, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil. It just depends on what you're cooking, what you believe gives your food the most flavor, and what you're cooking in. I change it up sometimes. It just depends on what I'm cooking. So once these kind of get a little good searing on them, I'm going to flip them over, just get that browning on the opposite side, give a little extra crunch, a little extra flavor. It does mellow out some of the harshness if you kind of have a harsher tasting green bell pepper, if that's what you buy at your store or what you have growing in your garden. It does mellow it out some. So that looks pretty good. We're going to have it all laid out with our fall decorations in the background. And that looks mighty tasty. So we're going to lay it out, make it look nice and fancy-like. So we have a heaping helping of red potato hash per serving. We have 2 egg clouds and 2 pieces of toast with country crock on them. So it's a fairly easy process. Doesn't take too long to make those egg clouds. They're actually quite fast. The longest part of this process was making the red potato hash, making sure it's cooked all the way through. And we're going to have a nice crunch as we break that yolk and the egg whites. So the yolks are still runny at this point, even with that 3 and 4 minutes in the oven. But we do have a nice crunch on our egg whites for our Cowboy Egg Clouds. Mixing in those green onion pieces definitely gives it a really nice flavor, especially compared to if it weren't there. So all nice and gooey. It covers the egg whites. It's perfect. If y'all enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it. Hit that subscribe button. Also click on that notification bell so you'll be notified of all the videos being published in the future. And go ahead and put in the comments what y'all think of this dish, if you've ever had it before, whether it be at a restaurant or made it yourself. And if y'all do make it, let me know how it turns out. I'm curious what y'all think. I hope y'all enjoy the taste of it. It really is a wonderful tasting dish. Nice little delicacy. Makes it look nice and fancy, and it's easy to make. So I look forward to seeing y'all in the next videos. We got plenty more content coming up. Have a good one.